Hello and welcome to episode number 12 of the Social Q+A Show. My name is Matt Kelly and today I've got a pretty quick and interesting episode for you. I've actually just returned back to Australia from South by Southwest Interactive, which is arguably the world's largest technology, startup, innovation, digital conference pretty much ever that exists in the world. It was my third time going across to Texas for this particular conference, and every single time it's been ridiculous, inspiring, all that stuff. So what I decided to do was, while I was just wandering around the show floor, around all the different sessions, I was like, I'm going to record a quick video and talk through some experiences. So a couple of fairly interesting sort of learnings or experiences that I was able to grab onto that I thought were worth talking about. So I do that in the video that you're about to see in a couple of seconds. Now, before I get to it, quick disclosure, it is pretty horrific video. Portrait, walking around with my iPhone, speaking straight into my headphones. So I know it's not great video, I know it's shaky, I know it's crazy, I apologize for that, but my thinking is I'd rather give you a real experience and show you the behind the scenes than, I don't know, than do a fabricated post analysis that's a bit more boring and staged and whatever. Before I get there, probably the most obvious or most interesting learning of the whole experience was from Jonah Pirelli from BuzzFeed, co-founder of BuzzFeed. Super interesting guy. Talked through how they're moving from this this hosted to distributed model within social. So I talk about that in the video. Talk about seeing people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Guy Kawasaki, Eric Ries, all talking about their areas of expertise. So many awesome learnings. So much cool stuff that went down at South by Southwest. If you like this video, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. Feel free to leave me a comment if you hate it, which would not shock me because it is a pretty horrible video. If you hate it, that's cool as well. Make sure you give me some feedback. Shoot me a tweet at Matthew Kelly. And yeah, if nothing else, enjoy. And here's the behind the scenes look at South by Southwest Interactive. Roll the footage. Hey guys, it's Matt Kelly here. Listen, a really quick one. I'm actually wandering around the show floor at South by Southwest Interactive, which is one of the biggest technology, startup, digital marketing, innovation conferences in the world. So excuse the really shaky video, but I thought I would do a quick bit of a walk around, and this is actually super cool, like do a bit of a walk around and just talk through probably one of the most interesting findings that I've had since being here. Not only is this there's 800 sessions just for the interactive portion of the conference that's across probably 100 venues. It's over 4 days, so at any given time there's 5, 10, 15, 20 sessions running at once. So it's the most intimidating, crazy, amazing environment to be in. The reason why I come here is because I find that it's this massive inspiration that you just don't get anywhere else, right? It's this really crazy environment where there's an energy, there's people building stuff, it's really fun. So this is my third time coming out to Texas. This is just for this conference, which is really cool. And as I was coming out to Austin, I was like, I want to do another podcast, got to do another video. I need to find a really cool topic to talk about. And we've seen sessions from some pretty amazing people, from Guy Kawasaki to Tim Ferriss to Gary Vaynerchuk to Jack Welch to all sorts of really interesting people. Phil Libin, who's the CEO of Evernote and the founder of Evernote. And there's been all these like recurring themes of things that we've heard before, but always inspiring, interesting, and really cool to hear from these sorts of people, which is great. What's been fun, or what's been interesting, or what's even been different was we went to a session last night, which is with the co-founder of BuzzFeed. And what was interesting about the co-founder of BuzzFeed is he was telling us basically the inner workings of a site like BuzzFeed. It's way bigger than people, I think, realize, give it credit for. It's not just a little blog, it's a massive news institution now, right? They're driving like hundreds of millions of views of traffic every month to their content, which is pretty insane. But what he talked about was, I think this model scales for everyone that's building a social presence, is that no longer are they focused or worried or curious about driving traffic to their website. If you think about it, why did we drive traffic to our websites in the past? Well, the real core reason for doing that was really because we had banner ads on the site, or we were able to sell a product on our site. Well, there was a real reason why we could tailor the experience, and it was like a very specific, like measurable. When people hit this site, this is the meaningful experience that occurs. But when you think about it for BuzzFeed, even when they do branded ad content, it's not branded ad content in terms of a banner ad that they need to get impressions on, right? It's like really premium content that they create with branded partners. So they'll create a series of cat videos for a cat food brand called Friskies. They'll do all kinds of very, very specific strategies that will actually appeal to the audience and be shareable in their own right without ever needing to, just appeal to the general audience. So I was really curious about this, and what they said was, up until now, and I'm going to do a little pivot here, I'm getting everyone's way. What's fascinating to me is that as long as people are seeing and experiencing their content, they can drive traffic to anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter what people are seeing or where they're going. As long as people see the content, they're sharing it, they're engaging with it, then that's the experience that BuzzFeed need their users to have. So as we started thinking about this, it was like, well, where do you host content? The best experience is always natively on a social channel, right? Rather than doing some clickbaity article and throwing them to a website, why wouldn't you like post the entire video natively on Facebook? It's going to give you more native reach for BuzzFeed, but also it's a better user experience for the end customer, the end user, the viewer, and that's what they're doing. So going forward, BuzzFeed are testing out all sorts of strategies in this environment, which I think is fascinating and interesting and a pretty unique take. I'm swapping hands here. It's a pretty unique take on an environment where people didn't do that conventionally, right? It didn't make sense. It was all about impressions are fine, but I need people on my website to actually see this, right? And I was curious at first, and I was really sort of sparked my attention because I was like, well, we kind of do this now, right? Like we do build out relationships with users on social channels first without a real core need immediately to convert them to a website. In an e-commerce sense, I get why you would try to funnel someone to a website. In certain experiences where you're trying to capture leads, I get it when you do it. But if your content is part of your product, if that's part of your product offering, then give it to people where they want to consume it. You're going to get way more traction, and it makes way more sense. So it's nice to feel a bit validated there in a space that is inherently complicated, but really, really cool. So it was just an interesting observation. The other really interesting thing that BuzzFeed are doing is, and this is something that I thought was actually incredibly fascinating, is when they do work with brand partners, they've got this understanding with the brand partner that, well, okay, we're going to create some content, I'm going to put it out to our audience, but the truth is, this may not actually get engagement, right? The likelihood of something going viral is always slim, even for BuzzFeed, so they've got to go on a very similar iterative process to what I talked about in a past episode, which is in terms of building out social strategy. So what they'll do is they'll go and make a series of videos with a client. It might be 5 videos, and they don't take 6 weeks to do it, they take a couple of days to do it, and they'll push each of those videos out to their audience, right, one after another, and test for engagement, like you should be doing with a social strategy. So there's something really powerful that I love there. It's like, well, we don't know what the right content, what content is going to stick. We really don't. Especially in the case of branded material, it can't be overly promotional, overly branded. The real important part here is that it's something that makes sense for the audience. It's going to be interesting, relevant. It's going to spark their curiosity and all that stuff. So the fact that they go through these testing cycles is actually really interesting, and they force their brand partners, they force their advertisers to do the same thing and work on that with them. And it was hinted from Jonah that it's a complicated thing, right? It's complicated to try and sell that into a client, but when they get it, they really get it, and that's amazing. So yeah, I'm actually looking at BuzzFeed. I never thought I'd say this because it's pretty confrontational site, right? But I actually think they're probably leaders in, we know they're leaders in content marketing and driving traffic, but maybe they're leaders in terms of telling a story and building awareness and engagement and I don't know, building community. I guess they probably are, right? They've done it at a massive, massive scale, and even though we might get upset with their clickbaity articles, does it matter? If they're improving the experience, if they're giving people the light-hearted take on the world and all that stuff, then maybe they're doing a good thing. I don't know, it's really interesting. So I'm going to continue to use BuzzFeed as just someone to watch, basically, and I encourage anyone watching this to do the same. I don't know what the best model is. I don't know if it's going to make sense or not make sense, but yeah, that's my take. So there's a little snippet on the inner workings of BuzzFeed, which is pretty cool. What I'm going to do now is actually take you guys on a bit of a walk. I can't show you too much just because right now I'm in one of the big hallways, right? So there's a few people around, but I'll actually go for a walk through through one of the busy areas up here, and then might actually take you into the trade hall, the big the area where there's a lot of brands demoing new products, showing off cool technologies, all that stuff, and just do a bit of a behind-the-scenes look at what's cool, what's not, maybe, and yeah, some cool stuff that's going on. So let's go. All right, so I thought I'd just take some quick video as I wander around the trade hall here. There's a lot here actually. It's a pretty massive room with some pretty crazy emerging technology, from new headphones to motion sensing technology to I'll see if I can try and find some. There's yeah, there you go. That's some kind of very fashionable belt that you would wear to put your technology gadgets in. Audio Technica's got a booth. There's Mophie right in front of us. All these companies that I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this video will have seen before. But no, there's a couple of really cool things here that are, I feel, the diamonds in the rough, I guess. Down here, there's a ring that you actually wear on your finger, and it allows you to do, essentially, it just tracks your movements, right? So you can essentially, in the future, this is the real, like, wave your hand in front of the TV to change the channel, or, you know, do a gesture with your hand to make your music turn on, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's actually really interesting. It's technology that isn't there yet by any means, but it's still interesting to watch, to consume, to suss out, to learn about. I think it's cool. So we'll see if they're demoing it over here. They may not be. Looks pretty quiet actually. Yeah, no, apparently not. So, there's not a lot going on over here, unfortunately. There's NASA have a pretty substantial booth in the corner, which is fairly crazy. They've got a big sort of experience that you can sort of wander through there, which is quite cool. And the other interesting thing here is there's actually a lot of corporations, a lot of universities, even whole cities that have built, like, I don't know, trying to build out their little, carve out their little mark of the future, right? So they're really angling, excuse me guys, they're really angling for, like, look at us, we're interesting, we're influential, we're doing interesting things, and it's a space that they're all trying to do. So I guess it's to drive future investment inside their cities, to try and build some market awareness that, hey, you know, Israel is a great place to build a startup, or whatever it is. So I found that really interesting. That, you know, even, like, you know, Mexico, New Zealand, Ireland, they've all got little hubs here, which is quite fascinating, really. There's a pretty big stage in front of us, which you can see. I'll see if there's anything going on in there. And then what we'll do is, I know this is a pretty crazy, shaky video, so I apologise for that. What I think I'll probably end up doing is linking to a few interesting keynotes. I understand that a whole lot of the big presentations are actually going to be put up on YouTube anyway. So if I can grab those, I'll add a few links to the YouTube description of this episode, so you can go and see some high-res video of people much smarter than me talking about some interesting things. I think yeah, everyone from guys like Guy Kawasaki are definitely gonna. Oh, this is interesting. So this is like a new type of chair that you sort of just lean back on and it moves a little bit. It looks like it's for core strength or something. So it just looks interesting. So yeah, this is what the trade hall looks like. I'm not exactly sure whether there's anything here worth showing, but I'll keep doing the laps and we'll see, right? There's a new little, what appears to be a new little social network trying to pick up some steam. XOCIAL, which is cool. Tableau's over there. These guys are a t-shirt printing press that they're doing. They're actually printing t-shirts live on the spot, which is quite cool. It's interesting. The blue ghost logo is actually very reminiscent of the Snapchat logo. I don't know, it doesn't look like there's any affiliation. There's Olo Clip, that's the lens that you clap, the 3x photo lenses that you can snap onto the back of your iPhone and yeah, get much better photos than you would from your standard flat lens, which is quite cool. Over here, there's actually some virtual reality stuff, which is awesome. Cameras that you can actually snap photos from in, I'm trying to work out where it is. I was here the other day having a look. it's a three-dimensional camera. So it actually takes, like, think about it as the same types of cameras that they would use on the top of, say, a Google Street View car that's driving around the street. This thing will actually snap video in 360 degrees around you, which is pretty fascinating, and then enable you to, like essentially grab any part of the video later and capture. I don't know. It's like putting it on a rail or on a dolly of some kind, which is pretty cool. So let's see if they give us an example here of how it works. Yeah, this is cool. So they set up the camera in the middle, and then they drive around it. They ride around on a skateboard, and without even moving the camera, they're capturing every single thing that happens, which is quite impressive. So what they actually did yesterday was, when I was down here, is they actually put a virtual reality headset on for me with video they'd captured, and essentially you're watching the video straight in front of you, and as you turn your body, it actually turns, it sort of changes your perspective within the video itself. Really, really impressive technology. So this is sort of showing you them running around the camera, 360 degree angles, and it's capturing everything that happens, right? And it's going to actually spit that out as a complete cycle, and then you choose what you want to do with that. So that's pretty cool. There's also these guys here, ICANN. They have a really, really cool, really, really interesting like a Steadicam that you can put a GoPro or an iPhone on that is incredibly impressive. It's got 3 motors in it that drive the accelerometers, and it's sort of the size of just a really small tripod that you would, like, imagine a small tripod that you'd hold in your hand. But incredibly impressive. Like, it would be much better if I was using one of those to film this video, because this is going to be shaky and awful. So again, if you've watched this far, I apologise, but I'm also grateful that you've done so, because it's not ideal. Everything here from microphones, that's Rode. Sony are up in front of us with Panasonic, big cameras. I think that's a Red in front of us there. Really impressive stuff. These are like insane cameras.
What kind of work do you do?
Something that I would love to be playing with in the future, and maybe not be shooting on an iPhone, but this will do for now, I think. For anyone who's upset about the aspect ratio, the fact that I filmed this in portrait as opposed to landscape, I apologise. Yeah, at arm's length, without using a selfie stick, it was pretty hard to make the landscape shot look good with my giant head in the middle of the screen. So that's sort of the reason why I've shot in portrait. But you can see here, this is where it starts to get chaotic. We're in one of the main areas now. This is a line over here. Yeah, AstroTeller's about to speak from Google, so we know that there's going to be all sorts of stuff going on shortly. But it's, yeah, a crazy, crazy environment. There's a massive line there of people just funneling in. So this is probably the real South by Southwest experience, waiting in lines, being in big crowds of people, but everywhere you look, everywhere you turn. When I hit pause before I walked in earlier, before I walked into the, hang on, I'm going to do a pivot here. Yeah, when I did a walk earlier, after hitting stop, walking towards the trade hall, I actually started just chatting to a guy who worked at Google, and we just randomly, and just had a bit of a conversation about where he's going and what's going on and all that stuff, and it was really, really interesting. So the reason I come here, and I've said this to actually many, many people, I'm sure I'll reiterate this in the video, but I don't really come to South by Southwest to learn a great deal. And that's not to say that you don't learn a great deal, but I'd like to think that a lot of the stuff here is not at the real expert status level. But what's quite interesting or quite fun is that when you come here, there's a different type of inspiration that you get, right? Like, there's a different experience that you get by just being around these sorts of people, meeting influencers that you wouldn't dream to meet anywhere else, right? I don't think they have this saturation of digital influences anywhere else in the world, but this 1 week is when it's all happening. So I find that really fascinating, and that's really the reason why I come to South by. So anyway, that was a bit of a look. You can see even companies like Mazda are doing pretty substantial sets and whatnot to try and really drive, the perceived innovation within their brands. It's a really cool environment. It's a fun place. I would encourage anyone that is even considering it to come to South by. It's a pretty crazy experience. So anyway, I think that's probably enough for now. I could walk around and show you into a few of the big sessions, but it's probably pretty hard to capture too much of those environments. So I might show a few clips here of different people doing their thing. But as for now, Matt Kelly's signing off.